Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? I'm Chantel Chand, and the squad show, we're going to get a lot to talking about today because, of course, the Raiders coming off that loss against the Broncos. Some of their mistakes, though, was self-inflicted. They could have won the game. We'll get into that in this episode and a lot more.
Raider Nation, Professor Kennedy here. Yes, it was a yawn fest on Thursday night. Yes, I get it. But we're hoping to turn things around and probably get these Raiders on the track for the latter half of the season. We'll talk about it more on the Squad Show.
Raider Nation, what's happening? Q Myers here. Tom McMahon, special teams coordinator. The Raiders showed him the door. Will that be the last in-season move that they make? That plus more coming up on the Raider Squad Show. Let's get it.
Raider Nation, it's time. This is the Raiders Squad. Everything Las Vegas Raiders every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the Death Star in the desert. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Commitment to excellence starts here. The Raiders Squad Show starts now.
Hey, what's up, Raider Nation? Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. Also, just a heads up, we're on the audio side if you're watching this on YouTube. So wherever you find your shows and podcasts, you can find us there as well. Give us a 5-star, leave a rate and review, and obviously the other way as well. If you're listening to this on the audio side, you can also find this on YouTube. So give us, check us out on YouTube, like and subscribe there as well. We do appreciate you continuing to help this channel grow and help the show grow, whether you make Locked On Raiders your first listen of the day and the Squad Show your second listen of the day. We do appreciate you helping to continue grow the show. And Locked On Network is actually the #1 podcasting network. So we do appreciate you as well, helping the podcast network grow with Locked On. Now, before we get into everything on the docket, we got to obviously give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. In the final segment, Q and Linc are going to be taking some of your questions and comments. So drop them in the chat if you're on YouTube right now. If you're listening to this later on, you can always drop those comments in later and we can probably get to it on another episode, but keep those comments coming in that final segment. Also, we're going to be talking about the coaching staff as well. Some news that, Q mentioned earlier. We'll get into that. But guys, I think we got to start off with what we saw on Thursday night because we didn't have a show on Friday. Q, you had your Locked On Raiders show, but the Raiders could have won this game. And I feel like there were a lot of takeaways. The defense, they played really well and kept the Raiders in the game, but the offense just couldn't get it going. Q, we'll start off with you first. Just your thoughts on the Raiders' performance on Thursday night against a division rival in the Denver Broncos.
I mean, it was a comedy of errors, to be honest. I mean, they just made so many stinking mistakes. And, to be honest about it, Denver did as well, right? I mean, both sides, it was not the most pleasing to the eyes type game to watch on Thursday night, which is funny because Thursday night football, strange things happen. We talked about that before last week. But, the defense played lights out. I want to give them so much credit for every situation they were put into. They answered the call. And the problem is that the offense and the special teams unit did not. And the rest of the game just, was abysmal, for the Raiders. I mean, there's a touchdown called back due to penalty. There's a big Ashton Genty run called back due to penalty. There's A.J. Cole getting a punt blocked, and still the Raiders defense only gives up 3 points. I mean, there was just, like I said, it was a comedy of error, 22 total penalties accepted through both teams, right? I mean, and you just can't, you're not going to be able to overcome all the mistakes. The ball bounces off Genty's hands, turns into an interception. Just, Geno gets sacked 6 times. Kenny Pickett comes in for one play, and they decide, hey, Geno's the best option to go back out there because he wanted to go back out there, which I give him credit for. But, I mean, it's just one thing after the other. If it could go wrong, it went wrong for the Raiders, and they still only end up losing by 3 points. So, yeah, very winnable game. It's just that's kind of how things go. Oh, a missed easy field goal for Daniel Carlson, which nowadays nothing seems to be like an easy field goal for Daniel Carlson. So, yeah, I can go on and on with all the errors that were made, but ultimately they are not good enough to overcome that many mistakes and think they're going to get a win, and they didn't.
Man, I fell asleep so many times during this damn game. I didn't think anybody wanted to win it.
I was doing a radio show on ESPN, so I was occupied. I had plenty of stuff going on.
This bad boy is sloppy. Here's the thing: if you come into a game, this is the way I look. If you come into a game and the other team has got a pertinent defense, pass rush, and that can apply pressure, Don't have Geno Smith hold on to the football. Tell him he's got to get rid of the football. They took too many sacks so many times that forced them out of places where they could try to get some points. And I'm not even going to speak about the special teams. I don't know what happened. Other than the punts on the 1 yard line, those are exciting. Ray guys bring it back. But other than that, it was a snore fest. It really was. Yeah. And look, we come here every week so far, guys, and we talked about how the defense has kept us in it. The offense is going to have to pick up their part.
Yep.
They're going to have to do their part. And I don't know how you get things started. I saw some good plays, saw some good runs, I saw some good passes. There were some timing things, but just as Q said, the sacks. You can't give up that many sacks and hope to have any positive outcome. So they've got to do something to right this ship. And I don't know how it's going to happen with all the changes that are going through, but we'll talk about it later. Possibility of other coaches being on the hot seat. I think changes might have to come before the season is over. Don't know where exactly they are, guys, because I'm just speculating. But for the most part, something has to be done to fire start this team.
The thing about it is that game was just so bad from, so many different angles. Like, we talked about it in great detail that this team gets after the quarterback. Yeah. There's a way that Geno can hold on to the ball. We talked about, deep developing routes. Like those probably aren't going to be ran because the pocket will come.
Time.
And it's like they still went out there. Hey, I know this isn't a good idea, but we're still going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, what in the world? To me, it just didn't make any sense. And normally I'm a guy that says being aggressive is okay. I have no problem with being aggressive. But you mentioned it. AJ Cole was having himself a day, pinning the Broncos offense back in the 1 yard line multiple times. And they decided that their genius play was going to be go for it on 4th and 5 from midfield. Right? Why would you do that? Why would you not, when you know that this guy's in his bag, he's punting the ball so well and pinning them back, and their offense stinks. Let's be honest about it. I know the Broncos are 8-2, but their offense stinks. Right? That's not going to be sustainable when they get to the postseason if they're still playing like that. Why would you not pin them deep and force them to go the whole length of the field when you know that, one, your defense is playing great and your punter is flipping the field like that? Instead, they give them the ball at midfield, and that led to the only touchdown of the game. Huge mistake, and that's on coaching. That's on everyone. Like that, you can't make that decision. 4th and 5, punt it. It might not be what fans want to see, but forget what the fans want to see. You want to try to find a way to win, and that's how they ultimately found a way to lose.
And it was just those small mistakes. And you talked about, we used to call him Cash Money Carlson. He hasn't been cash money lately. He hasn't been cash. No. And, Tom McMahon obviously was let go by the Raiders, and that was a decision they made after this game. And Q, you mentioned it. Is there going to be more of these decisions that are going to be coming up later on? And we'll get into Chip and, Pete later on in the show. But just your thoughts on, Tom being let go. And did you kind of see that coming? We'll go with you first, Linc.
Yeah, I did. Especially the comedy of errors like we talked about all this season. Yeah, I did. I did see it happening. I didn't necessarily think it was going to happen mid-season, but I did see it happen. Q?
Yeah, again, agreed 100%. And you kind of felt like after that loss, something had to happen. Yeah. Now, I think that Tom McMahon is probably the first scapegoat. But look, his special teams unit hasn't been very special, right? There's at least 3 games that we could talk about right now that special teams played better, the outcomes could have been different, right? Now Chicago, the field goal was blocked. It was going to be a long field goal regardless. 58 yards, that's a long field goal, and Cash Money Carlson hasn't been that guy, so maybe he misses anyway, right? Who knows? But he never got an opportunity because he got blocked. We saw AJ Cole get a punt blocked on Thursday, right? That led to 3 points. Again, they only lost by 3 points. So there you go. You're putting points right in Denver's, in their cart. And there you go. Here, exit cart or whatever. You know what I mean? Like if you're online shopping, right? You gave them 3 points basically with that punt block. Obviously, the extra point that was missed against Jacksonville just a couple days ahead of time. Like there's so many times there's been breakdowns in the special teams unit. So I could see that being the first, domino to drop. But I don't think at this stage of the game when they're sitting there at 2-7 and Pete Carroll having these expectations of winning a lot of games and, this team being put together however they are, I don't think that that'll probably be the last move that is made. And I think that the heat is on everyone at this stage of the game, whether that's the right answer or not. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know what the right answer is at this stage of the game because the Raiders have had so much turnover and so many changes at the head coaching spot and all these different guys coming and going. I don't know at this stage of the game what the right decision is, but they got to figure out something to get the train back on the tracks and at least look like they're trending in the right direction.
They got to stop the bleeding. That's what it comes down to. They got to stop the bleeding. The defense will go out there and play all out. and keep you in it. That's what you want your defense to do. You don't ever ask your defense to do more than that. Keep us in and give us a chance to win. And they had every chance to win. And there have been a few games this season where it's come down to that. So it's disheartening. It's disappointing. I know it's hard for the Raider Nation, but look, as Q said, they've got to find a way to turn things around and get things back on to a win. They need a win bad, and you only have one game at a time. So this is hard. This was a really hard one.
Yeah, and you know what? When they started off the game and they were up 7-0, I was like, hey, they might make this one interesting. And the defense was looking really good. And I think we should give a shout out to the defense because it was like the one positive throughout this game. They were, trying to get after the quarterback. They were making plays. Both the front end and the back end were playing well together. And it was just the offense that couldn't get it together. And there's been games like we saw against Jacksonville. The defense didn't play well. And the offense was scoring points, right? That's what you want to see. And so when the defense is playing well, the offense isn't playing well. But when the offense is playing well, it seems like the defense isn't playing well. But I thought that the defense against, a Broncos team, and Q, you kind of said it, like you don't really believe in this Broncos offense as much.
No, they stink.
Yeah, and they showed that. And they showed that on Thursday night. But I mean, I think the Raiders did a great job defensively, and just your guys' thought on the front end and the back end playing very well together in that game. And unfortunately, the offense just couldn't help them out in this one, Q.
No, I thought they did a good job. I thought the defense put the Broncos offense in a bad position. I say that they stink. I don't trust Bo Nix yet, right? I mean, he hasn't shown that he's taken that next step. There are some passes that he made that should be layups that he just missed, right? And so that's a him thing, and they're going to have to do a lot better, obviously, offensively if they're going to try to make a deep run into the postseason. But that's for them to figure out, not me. But I did think that the Raiders defense did a really good job playing complementary football, being able to, like you said, the back end support the front end, give just enough pressure on the quarterback to be able to rush him off his spot. I thought they did a really good job holding the Broncos under 100 yards rushing after giving up 151 yards to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, there was a lot of things that I liked what they were able to do, and I thought that they were able to put the offense in really good positions to succeed, and the offense just couldn't handle it. And, Ashton Genty is cooking early in the game. I thought he was looking really good. And then he has that big 30-yard rush that gets called back because of a holding penalty that absolutely had nothing to do with the play, but that was a rookie wide receiver making a rookie mistake, and then JPJ goes down, and all of a sudden it's like everything collapsed, right? And if you didn't know JPJ's value before he went down, I think you realized his value after he went down.
Ain't that the truth? Well, Q, I bet you probably take Bo Nix now instead of what we have, right? Sorry, let me take that. Oh, anyways, no, I'm not taking any. When we talk about the positives that we've seen, I came into the season figuring that, we're going to have a talented defense. We're going to be able to play with people. Yeah, there's some holes in the Patrick Graham defense. They're going to have to try to find a way of covering up. And we've seen them exploit it at times. But overall, the defense has been our only strong suit. And when I thought it was going to be defense and special teams kind of let me down, and it became a comedy of errors. Offense is really no-show. They have had no consistency all season. That's not going to necessarily change overnight. Maybe they can get some game plans together to have things bounce their way, maybe build some confidence in that. But I'm not holding my breath because we haven't seen that transformation yet. And I don't know how it comes out of Chip Kelly or where we are. So with that being said, yes, the defense was the strength. They played out. They did. They went out there and they played very well. I just still say offense, and it's so disheartening being a former offensive player saying that, offense has got to pick it up and do their part. Never mind special teams. I know they're a part of it, but offense has got to do their part.
And I continue to say about the Raiders offense real quick that I don't believe that everyone is on the same page. Even watching the way that the game flow went on Thursday night against the Broncos, there was 2 drives in a row that Ashton Genty did not touch the ball one time. And oh, by the way, and this is the big, and I can't believe we've talked for 14 minutes and haven't said this, Brock Bowers gets one catch for 31 yards and only 3 targets after having 12 catches the game before. And I know Denver was focusing in on slowing him down, but that's your dude. That's your number one target, especially with no Jacoby Myers. Now that's your number one target. He was already your number one target, but now he's really your number one target, and he gets one catch for 31 yards. And look, you can go back and look at the film, right? Don't trust me. Go back and look at the film. There was times where if Geno just trusts himself, he could get the ball to him. He's breaking open, but then he holds the ball too long, and what happens? Yep, it's just that simple. So the rhyme and reason, the left hand and the right hand don't seem like they're communicating on the same page as far as I'm concerned.
Well, he wasn't even targeted in the second half. And I was wondering if Brock was dealing with an injury or if it was something that Geno just wasn't seeing. So do you guys have any information on that? Like Brock was not even targeted in that second half.
No, it's as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, he's not dealing with any injury. He's fine. He just didn't get any targets.
I didn't hear anything either.
No. So that's a big problem. And I think a lot of it has to do with what Lincoln's brought up early in the season, that Geno's looking down. Geno doesn't trust his protection, and he's just, he's he's erratic in the pocket at this stage of the game, and so he's not trusting what he's seeing, and so it's a lot of different reasons for the lack of success, but there's no reason at all that there's no targets for Brock in the second half. No way.
And, in terms of the offense, and this is probably an easy question, but would you grade it an F? Would either of you grade the offense an F?
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I thought that was obvious. I don't know if that was a question. I thought that was obvious. Hell yeah. It's an F.
Yeah, a rhetorical question. But I'll say that in terms of the O-line, JPJ gets injured, no Colton Miller. We knew that there was going to be protection issues in this game. What were you guys' thoughts on how the O-line tried to protect Geno in this one? Because he got sacked a lot.
They still gave up too many sacks.
Yeah.
Still gave up too many sacks. There was too many times. And it was these were critical sacks that took them either out of field goal range or backed them up even further midfield to where they couldn't possibly get a score. And look, it's going to have to come down to either max protection, where you're keeping them back and a tight end in, and you're only sending two guys out. That's going to be hard because the receivers sometimes have trouble getting separation on the second level. And you're talking about some of the better defenses you're going to play in the second half of this season. So you're going to have to deal with safeties that are ornery. And we already know the turnover ball that Geno Smith has had. I mean, this is when I think about this offense, when I think about Geno Smith, as many times he's been hit, as many interceptions as he's thrown, I can see why he's looking down. I can see why he's not looking down the field. He's looking down at the pass rush. He's trying to figure out a way where he can sliver out and probably do something, maybe a check down here. I can see that. But it does not help you win when this team struggles to get positive yards on first and second down. You're forced back in the third down and long situations. They are not as fluid as an offense as they can be. And there were times in the Denver game where I saw the offense moving the ball. They looked productive. I'm glad they got guys like Michael Mayer involved. I'm glad they got guys like Tyler Lockett involved. I'm glad Ashton Jeanty. But you're right. It's a little too little and almost a little too late for it in a lot of ways because it has not translated into wins.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
It's been, I mean, just really, like I said, it feels like it's like battleship offense, right? They just try to find something, Joe Jeanty run A. Oh, that was a hit. Cool. Jeanty run B. No, it didn't hit. Okay, let's do something else. It doesn't feel like the rhyme and rhythm is there. And look, even though that Denver defense is really good, number one defense in the league and top 10 against the rush, I thought early on Jeanty was doing a really good job running the ball. And I felt like if he had that 30-yard run not called back because of that holding penalty on Jack Besh, I thought he was in line for a hell of a day. Because he's only going to get better the more success that he sees. And then you start to see a little bit of failures. And then you start to see guys start to hang their head a little bit and start thinking about, what just happened or this, that, and the other. And then one bad thing snowballs into another bad thing. I thought Jeanty was going to have himself a day on Thursday. And unfortunately, it didn't happen for him. It didn't work out. But, I mean, you've got two big-time playmakers on your offense. I mean, literally, that's who you have. You have Brock Bowers and you have Ashton Jeanty. Chip Kelly's number one job should be figuring out how to use those guys to the best of their ability each and every game, how to get the most out of that 1-2 punch, because that's what you have. You have everyone else as a complementary piece around them. I get that. But those are the two dudes. You've got to be able to use them each and every week, and they're just not doing that.
Yeah, and Ashton Jeanty, 60 yards on the ground. And Q, I agree with you. I think that they should have kept on rolling with Jeanty, and he would have seen a lot more success. But I think that's been the issue for the Raiders offense this season. It's like, are they going to be a team that runs the ball, or are they going to be a team that airs it out? But we know that Geno hasn't had that protection. Geno's had a terrible season, and it just hasn't been good for the Raiders offense. But, it's kind of interesting because, we talk about Jeanty and we talk about Brock Bowers. I thought there was going to be someone else that needed to step up in this game. And I talk about the young guys. Jack Besh gets called for, that huge penalty that negates that run. But we don't really see anything else from him in the game. And the whole entire game, I was waiting for Besh to do something. Dante Thornton Jr. Probably could have had a touchdown in this game. And so he made some mistakes as well. Just your guys' thoughts on what you saw from the rookies, because it was a chance for the rookies to really shine, Link.
Well, we said after the bye, the young guys were going to get some more playing time. You can't go in there and mess up. That's the last thing you can do. I mean, Thornton gets called for an illegal pick.
Yeah.
Calls back a touchdown. That might have been a difference in the game there. It's like Q started the show talking about the Raiders have shot themselves in the foot so many times. They can't get out of their own way at times. So I'm expecting the rookies to play a lot more. The younger guys, not just the rookies, but the younger guys to play a lot more. Because what else do you have to hold on to for? I mean, you might as well put them out there, see what they can do. And look, guys, this is the time of year where I've been in these positions when you have a record like this. This is the time of year when you're starting to look over your shoulder, be like, all right, I'm gonna call my people. I'm gonna get the hell out of here, or I'm gonna get from off of this sinking ship. And I've seen it happen before. So I'm hoping that players don't quit. I'm not saying that they will. I've been around the locker room. I've seen players quit. And so a lot of times when the guys aren't getting the burn, aren't out there playing, they're the first ones to go. And you'll see it in practice.
Yeah, there's no doubt. There's no doubt. And look, when Jacoby Myers was moved, we all said on this show and other shows that, all right, now's the time that the rookies have to step up. There's no, well, let them kind of build up and try to let them learn the NFL game. All right, now you're expected to play, and you're expected to play a big role. Look, Dante Thornton Jr., he was very emotional after the game because he knows that there was a few mistakes that he made that really could have been big difference makers in this game and helped the Raiders get a win as opposed to get a loss. But, he drops the ball that would have been about a 45-yard completion right before half. That's just something that the ball was a great pass by Geno. He beat his guy. All he's got to do is complete the play. And he didn't. He let the ball fall right through his hands. So that was a drop. Then the offensive pass interference that Lincoln talked about, that's a Tucker touchdown if he doesn't have that. And he knew after the game, he said, that was on me. Even during the game, he hit pounded his chest where it's the my bad, right? And you know that those are plays that he can't make. You cannot do that. You can't cost your team a game. So he said he's going to get better from that. Like listening to what he had to say in the locker room following the game, I could appreciate his approach and his, just his attitude about it and how he wants to be really good. But the point is now they have to be really good. There is no ramp up period. Now they have to. And Jack Best still doesn't get a whole lot of, snaps or targets or whatever the case may be. And it's just, again, they've got to figure out what they have. It got late real early with the Raiders this season. I mean, sitting there at 2-7, I think we all know what time it is. It's evaluate everybody. I don't think anybody feels safe from the head coach down. I think everyone understands that everything that they do is being looked at and then looked at twice under a microscope to make sure they're doing the right thing so they can help this team move forward.
Yeah,
my question always becomes, guys, is who's looking at them? Who's evaluating? Because we've had so much turnover from head coach, general manager, assistant coaches, everything else. Who's the one who's going to make these ultimate decisions?
Yeah.
And how are they going to try to reflect it for the remaining of the year? Are you just going to start letting people go that bad? I mean, it's the biggest question that I've had because we've had so much turnover. There has been so much turnover in the years. And who's evaluating this talent going forward? We've got guys that old coaches have drafted. We've got, guys that new coaches have drafted. How do you turn the page here? That's the biggest question for me, guys.
That's a great question.
We're going to get to that on the other side when we talk about the coaching staff and who's on the hot seat, who's not on the hot seat, but also if they still have their locker room, because when you're sitting at 2-7 on the season and heading into a mini bye week, lots of questions there on the table. So Raider Nation, keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show.
I'm Cody Rourke from Locked On Broncos, and this episode is brought to you by Peloton. Peloton is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. This is Peloton's most advanced equipment yet, giving you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or you're cross-training with your favorite instructors like Alex Toussaint. It's training reimagined to make your workout more personal. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with features that help you plan, stay motivated, and hit peak performance. You can let yourself run, lift, flex, and go while Peloton handles all the rest. Plus, Peloton IQ provides real-time strength coaching, tracking your progress and suggesting weights that challenge you so you can get stronger. Plus, the new movement tracking camera, it counts your reps and corrects your form in real time, making sure every rep is safer and smarter. So let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You can also follow us on our social media channels. You'll see in the description below the ways that you can connect with us. And once again, thanks so much for making Locked On Raiders or the Squad Show your first listen of the day. You guys were talking about, the coaching staff and who's going to be evaluating all these players. Lots of questions. You're sitting at 2-7. We know what it means when you're 2-7 at this time of the season. And the coaching staff, lots of questions. They let go of Tom McMahon. Special teams struggled all season long. And Q, you said he's the first scapegoat. And now the whole entire coaching staff, they're going to be under a huge microscope on what happens next. Chip Kelly, I feel like coming into the year had so much to prove. He hasn't proven anything yet. And you take a look at the offense and it's extremely predictable. Extremely predictable. There's plays that are called where you're just shaking your head. Some of the plays that are going to be called sitting from your couch. And it's not acceptable. And what are your guys' thoughts on how Chip Kelly has kind of handled this offense? And even going back to the fact that Brock Bowers was only targeted twice. We knew that the Broncos were going to be focused on him, but just all in all, I feel like Chip Kelly has the most heat on him, Q.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's also got the highest paycheck as well. So that's going to draw a lot of attention. I mean, this guy's getting paid $6 million a year, and that does not look like an offense that's, ran by a guy that's getting $6 million a year. It just doesn't. The offense has actually regressed from what it was last year, and I thought that was pretty much impossible, right? They were averaging 18 points per game last year. They're at, 15, 16 now? Something around that area. I know they had dropped all the way down to 14 at one point. It's not good. It didn't take a genius. You don't have to go and look at the PFF numbers. You don't have to, to know that this offense is not good. Everyone is underperforming, from the quarterback, the offensive line, running game, receivers. Everybody is underperforming. And Chip Kelly is the leader in the clubhouse there. I mean, he's the guy who's in charge of that unit. So something's got to give. But see, it keeps going back to me, to the same thing, like who, and Lincoln touched on it too, like who's calling the shots, who's evaluating everybody. Because if Chip Kelly is, say, Brady's guy, and let's just say Pete Carroll is Mark Davis's guy, all right, well, whose fault is it? And I'm just throwing this out there. I'm not saying that that's what it is, but just if that's what it is, if there's that kind of dynamic, who has bigger say? Does Pete Carroll and his shorter contract, where he's only under contract for a couple more years and has a fourth-year team option? Or is it, hey, Brady wants Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly's the highest-paid offensive coordinator. We're gonna fit with this guy wants to do. It just, to me, my biggest complaint is, like I said earlier, the left hand and the right hand don't seem to be on the same page. What Pete Carroll and what my vision of a Pete Carroll team is not what we see on Sundays or Thursdays or Monday or whatever the case may be. They don't seem like that they're meshing correctly. And I don't know if they share the same vision. To me, that's the biggest problem. That's the first question that's got to be answered.
I came into the season with high expectations off of 12 personnel, 13 personnel. Mm-hmm. And there have been, as much as I played football, I never really used any of those types of schemes. I saw when I watched, teams like the Rams and, like the Buffalo Bills, I saw them use it to their advantage and be so fluid. And of course, they had better quarterback play than the Raiders. But the point is that there are things I thought you can do with some of these weapons. And no, it wasn't going to happen overnight. I was trying to be as patient as possible. And I talked to you guys about that. I said, give me a month. Let me see if this team comes together. They've made no improvements. As a matter of fact, they've regressed. And it's disappointing because, look, the way these things sort of fall out is that I don't see Pete Carroll going anywhere for another year at least. And it's probably going to have to happen to Chip Kelly. And then you're going to have infighting from what, type of things that Q has talked about, but just hasn't taken off. And they need to be better. They need to be more efficient. They need to give their defense a chance if they're going to win any more games. This is so disappointing because I've never seen an offense struggle with some of the most simple and primary plays. You can't get a first down on a third down and short. You have trouble scoring from the 3-yard line when you got first down and goal. These things, they bug the hell out of me as an offensive line. There's going to be some major changes. And the first thing I hope they do is figure out this offensive line. Because they've got to piece this thing together. They've got to go out and commit to them. I've seen too many teams over this past weekend that committed to the offensive line, and they had better offensive play. The Raiders have to do it. It's long time needed.
Yep.
And you talk about decisions. I think one of the decisions early on Raider Nation had wanted, the Raiders organization to make was, and I hate to say it, but it has to be said. And you mentioned the O-line was Brendan Carroll no longer being, the coach of that O-line. And the O-line has struggled a lot, but he's Pete's son. Do you guys feel like that's a decision that may be made sometime during the season, or is that a decision that's made after the season? Because I agree with Link. I think Pete Carroll is here for another year, and I'm okay with giving him another season because it's going to take time to build up this team. But do you guys feel like his son might be fired before the end of the season, or do you think that's a decision that happens at the end of the season, Q?
I mean, I think it probably won't happen until after the season, but I think it's definitely something that needs to be, considered even during season. Look, they still have Joe Philbin on the coaching staff as an assistant there on the offensive line, and we know that, what he brings to the table and what he's done for a very long time on the offensive line. And this is the thing that I feel like Pete Carroll put himself in a very tough position. That's why, you don't really like to mix business with family, because it's tough to make those decisions. Right. I mean, you just think about like myself, if my son was working for me, how hard it'd be for me to say, hey, son, you're not cutting it. I got to let you go. I'd rather not be put in that position. When he made the decision to put his son as the offensive line coach and his other son is the quarterback's coach or quarterback assistant, that's now all of a sudden, now there's the immediate where everyone's going to start pointing the finger. Oh, this guy's not getting it done. Oh, he only has a job because. And that's not fair to Brennan Carroll, because he might be a hell of a coach, but obviously the offensive line is not where it is. So right now, from everyone, from myself and everyone else looking, oh yeah, he's not getting it done. He's not a very good offensive line coach. He's got to go. That puts Pete Carroll in a tough situation. So it has to be considered. There should be no decision that's not thought about and considered right now for the Raiders where they are. Right. And I'm not one. Anyone who's listened to me for any amount of time knows I'm not one. I'm not the guy that's a knee jerk. Go fire everybody, fire everybody, fire everybody. I know that doesn't work. You can't keep doing that. But at this stage of the game, you have to figure out what's best for the organization, not what's best for you and your family, what's best for the organization. And if that happens to be moving on from Brendan Carroll, then you've got to do that. You've got to move on from your son.
Well, that's the time we have to separate work from business and family and stuff like that. And look, when you talk about what's going to be made or what needs to be done, and we always talk about, November 10th, we always talk about the rest of the season playing and the opponents that you have to play for or play against. How are you going to get better? And I just don't see them taking that necessary step. I have not seen them take that step forward. It's been a comedy of errors where every time they seem to get something going, there's a big sack, there's a turnover, there's a miscue, there's a penalty, and it's nerve-wracking when you try to watch this team. So I don't necessarily know who all to put the blame on. Guys, I have no desire to coach.
Blame to go around.
I have no desire to coach. So don't ask me. I'm not coming. I'm not going to do that. You already know how I've said this. I have no desire to coach. But I've always thought when you're talking about letting someone go, you also have to have a plan of who you're going to bring in that place.
Exactly.
So either you're there's not a whole lot of coaches that are just sitting around on their hands. It's like, I can't wait to get that call from the Raiders, that type of thing. So do we trade in one for another and still come out with the bad outcome? Is the offensive line coach going to be able to mess with the offense coordinator and what they want to do? Because they always use these little subtle terms as run game specialist or pass game specialist. Oh, give me a break. But it is what it is. So I don't know if changes are going to come immediately, Q and Chantel. I don't know if they're going to happen right now, but they need to find some way to right the ship.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Pete has a little bit of a longer leash than Chip Kelly. I think Chip Kelly, I think he has to be out by the end of the season, not mid-season, because I think that would be drastic. I think that'd be a lot of chaos. I think you give him until the end of the season, see if there's any improvements on the offense. But nonetheless, I think from what we've seen, I think he has to go. Just because he hasn't lived up to expectations. And that's just my opinion, because he's getting paid a lot of money. And then it's whose decision was it to hire Chip? Was it really Pete's decision? There were so many rumors going around on X saying that might have been a Tom Brady decision. And I don't know if you guys know.
But that goes back to the original point. Who's evaluating talent?
Yep.
Yeah.
Who's studying talent? Who's studying talent, whether it's coaches or players? That's what we're asking right now, because none of us knows. And it's not. And look, we're not inside that war room. We're not supposed to have access to corporate information in the sense like that. But when you're trying to figure out which way your team is going, who are you going to look to?
Right. Exactly.
That's all that's what I want to know.
That's the $1 million question. And that's why, even on the podcast today, I said, hey, if the Raiders made the wrong decision in the hires that they made back in January, when they put John Spytek in place, when they put Pete Carroll in place, when they traded for Geno Smith, when they brought in Chip Kelly, if they made the wrong decisions for whatever reason, how do they right them? Right? How do you correct them now? Right? It's easy for someone to just say, "Oh, fire everybody and start over." Well, that's the Raiders' MO. That's what they've been doing for years on top of years. And so that you can't keep doing that. You also have a head coach that, is got a shorter deal than his GM does, right? And then you've got a offensive coordinator that makes more money than anyone in the league does at that position. So it's like, who's making these calls and is like, hey, this is my guy. All right, this is my guy. Because look, Geno Smith wasn't their first option at quarterback, right? Remember, they went hard in the paint after Matt Stafford. Yeah. I was in Indianapolis at the scouting combine on that Friday when it was decided that Stafford was going to return to the LA Rams, which everyone basically knew that, but he was playing the Giants and the Raiders against the Rams to try to get that money. It worked out. You see what Stafford's doing. At that stage, I remember it was a Friday, and Vinny Bonsignore, our colleague, was sitting at the table with me. I was doing the show, and I said, you know what? Forget it. Just go, do whatever you got to do, trade your draft picks, whatever, and move up to the number one spot and go get your quarterback. Because I was just there was no other way in my mind that they were going to get a quarterback. Then they said, no, they're not going to do something stupid like that. They're going to go and trade for a quarterback that they know is familiar with Pete Carroll. Okay, that makes more sense. That's why you guys are in that position and not me. So then I'm thinking that this is going to be a good marriage because Geno's already had success with Pete Carroll. But it just does not seem like they're complimenting each other. It does not seem like what the expectations were is what we're seeing play out in real time. It just, for one reason or the other, and I'm not smart enough to have that answer. There's a disconnect. It's not there. The offensive line is not good. And now they've got three guys that are banged up, right? Miller's down, JPJ's down, Dylan Parham went down. I can only imagine what that offensive line is going to look like next time they take the field. It's going to be hot garbage, right? And I don't mean to be disrespectful like that, but let's call it what it is. It's not good. It was already not good. And now all of a sudden you're missing your main guys, and especially JPJ sounds like he's going to be down for a while. Like that's a problem, man. That's a big problem. And then Geno's skittish in the pocket because he's scared the offensive line is not going to protect. Ashton Jeanty can't get going. Brock Bowers can't get more than 3 targets. And Pete Carroll sits there at the press conference and says, "I'm surprised that we're not further along." Like, what's going on? Where does the disconnect start, right? Where is the part of the that we always say it's the head of the snake? Where is the part of the snake that's infected? How can you remove the infection and move on? That's what the Raiders have to figure out.
We analyze and evaluate, Chantel and Q. We analyze and evaluate the performance of the guys that we see all the time and who's out there. And we talk about who's getting paid big money and who's on the hot seat and stuff like that. It's a performance-based evaluation. You've got to perform. Mm-hmm. And when you don't live up to that performance, changes have to be made. And this offensive line has been thin, has been light for so many years. And they tried to address it. I don't think they've done enough because we're still in the same situation that we were. Now, if you would have told me, guys, that Sam Darnold was going to have a better year than Geno Smith in Seattle after what he did in Minnesota last year, I would say you'd have lost your damn mind. I would have laughed at you. But at the same point, look at it. Look at the performance. And the Raiders were in the Sam Darnold sweepstakes for a little while. Yeah. They just wanted to go with somebody, as Q said, that was more familiar with Pete Carroll. And Geno Smith is skittish. He really is. He's skittish. He's looking down at the protection. He's not looking down the field. He wants to get rid of the ball and unload it on dump routes, or really quick routes on the inside, and puts the ball in harm's way. It's not working.
Right.
Yeah. It's not working. It's not getting it done. Not scoring enough points. Not getting enough first downs. Not running enough damn offensive plays. Remember, this team had 30 plays this season.
Right. Exactly.
I've never heard of that.
Ever. The Chiefs had more first downs in that game than the Raiders ran plays.
I've never heard of that. And so it's embarrassing.
Yes.
And there's so many changes have to be made.
Well, and on top of that, so you look at Geno. Okay, is he part of the problem? Obviously he is, but is he a big enough part of the problem not to return next year? They can move on from him. It's $18.5 million in dead cap money, but in the grand scheme of things, is that really a whole lot of money? I don't think so. I don't think it's.
They got to draft a franchise quarterback. They got to draft a franchise tackle.
Right, exactly. And I don't know what order you're going to do that in. Right, and just going to Geno's contract one more time after next year, it's 0 dead money. So you see the path out of there, but I don't know if you can hold on. Like, can we all deal with this another year?
No,
I don't know. Right, I don't. No. Unless there's huge upgrades on the offensive line, I don't see how you can deal with this another year.
Well, I really don't. You draft your franchise quarterback, and you do them like the Giants did with Jackson Dart. You send him for a while and over a veteran, get a couple snaps in, you start coming and playing. That's going to be your spark.
That could be it. Yeah. And my big thing is that this was last year going into the draft. All we heard was you need a quarterback. next year is going to be the draft for it. If you need a quarterback, that's what it's going to be. And I'll be honest, there's a couple guys out there that can go. Like Dante Moore from Oregon is great, right? But he has relationship issues with Chip Kelly. I mean, he was.
But Chip's going to be gone. Chip's going to be gone. So yeah.
Well, that could be maybe part of the solution. So maybe he's in play. Ty Simpson, I like him a lot from Alabama. He's very few starts in his career. He's been there 5 years. This is the first year he started. So you do the math, right? There's other guys. Mendoza. I know everyone's high on Mendoza. He's good. I think he's a really good quarterback. I thought he was good at Cal. I think he's good at Indiana. He doesn't really move too much, right? I mean, I think he gets like about 30 yards on the ground per game, which if that's how you want to operate your offense, then by all means. But there's, no, this draft class when it comes to quarterbacks is not as sexy as people said it was a year ago. Let's just put it like that. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make, that it's not as great as everyone thought it was going to be. And so the decision is going to be tough. And if you do go with your franchise quarterback in the first round, cool, awesome, go get your guy. But I just hope that guy is the right guy and not a guy that you're looking at like, yep, he's not him. And then you have to go and try to find him again, because you still have so many holes on this team, including that blue chip player on that offensive line. They don't have him.
True story.
Yeah, and I think for the Raiders, I think you go out and get your franchise tackle, and then you try to draft a quarterback later in the draft. If you don't have the number one pick, if you don't have the first two picks, you have to go tackle. That's what I think, because I think Dante Moore is going to be taken maybe number one overall. I think he will be the first quarterback taken off the board in the draft. Right. You talked about Mendoza. You talked about Ty Simpson. I think they might go midway.
They'll be the top three quarterbacks. They'll be the top three quarterbacks taken. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but there's definitely other options that they could go for. But when you talk about the O-line, that is the biggest need. And at this point, the Raiders, Linc, you mentioned it, like they tried to address it like throughout the years, but they never really addressed it. No. My issue as someone who like loves the Raiders is, why wasn't it addressed in the offseason when they had so much bread to give? They had the bread. They've always had the money to go out and do this, and they just did not address it. And then we get into the season, and then we're throwing our hands up like, oh, we don't have an O-line. They didn't want to spend. They did not want to spend the big money like, say, a Chicago or other teams spent on their offensive line. They didn't want to go there. I think they felt they had a plan in place. Some of the guys that they drafted, they said, okay, I think we're going to be good moving forward. And then looked at the starting offensive line. They said, with Alex Kappa coming in, and even though he's not playing, I'm just saying, throwing names out there. I think they wanted to. But again, we go back to who's evaluating what. Right. When coaches come in, and general and scouts come in, they all have a different philosophy. And everyone doesn't share the same page about what you want to do. Do we go big? Do we go powerful? Do we go small? Do we go quicker? These are all ideas that the coaching staff has to give them the same page before they go out there and address it. The Raiders have money. They have the money they can spend, and they can just learn how to manage it. They have to go out there and put the pieces together. That's why most of your plan is trying to tell, I agree with it. You get your franchise tackle, because there are usually players that have to go in the top 10 and tackle's one of them, or a corner or rush in, that type of thing. If you're not going to be able to get your quarterback, but you have to address that offensive line. A couple years ago, they tried to do it with Leatherneck out of Alabama. No one knew that he was going to be, he was going to go south the way he did. No one knew how it was going to happen for him mentally. They've tried time and time again. They've just been incredibly thin across the line of scrimmage every single season that I can remember.
Yeah, no, that's a huge issue. And it's funny thinking about the offensive line and talking about the offensive line. It was something that we asked John Spytek and Pete Carroll about at the scouting combine in Indianapolis. We were sitting around the round table right there at the front of the convention center there in Indianapolis. And they, to a T, looked at us and said, I think the offensive line is pretty good. And we all kind of, huh? And so, I think the offensive line is pretty good. And then everyone started saying, well, you saw what they did the last 4 games of the season last year. That's something to build on. I said, yeah, that was last year. And that was 4 games, small sample size, right? Okay, and they looked pretty good. But they believed that they, like Lincoln said, had a plan in place, that they were going to be able to make a few tweaks here and there, and that offensive line was going to be solid. And it just hasn't been, right? And I'll say this. I like Colton Miller a lot. I think Lincoln does as well. But he's also getting older. He's getting more and more banged up each and every year. I know he got the contract extension. He's a good offensive lineman. He's not the blue chip one that I think that the Raiders need. I think the Raiders need a huge upgrade at the blue chip position when it comes to the offensive line. If you go and get a big time right tackle this year, cool. But at some point, you need to get a guy that's going to be the eventual replacement for Colton Miller as well. You need to get some more nasty along the offensive line. Let's just keep it a buck. You need to get nasty along the offensive line. The Raiders don't have it. Right now, we talk about car thieves and choir boys. They've got some choir boys, but the only car thief being JPJ.
Yeah, and the O-line is probably one of the biggest issues. And, of course, they protect the quarterback. And we'll be talking a little bit more about Geno Smith on the other side. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show. If you're a business owner, here's the sad truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. It's seriously simple to use, and it gives the companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything that they touch. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNFL. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNFL for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And guys, we got to get into Geno Smith, and we talked a little bit about him. Listen, every episode we kind of talk about this. Is Geno's time up? He gets injured. He's clearly limping. They don't even go to Kenny Pickett. Like they went to Kenny Pickett for, one snap, essentially.
Yep.
They went back to Geno Smith, and I'm there just like, this dude is limping, and I appreciate the heart that Geno had, but he's also hurting the team if he's hurt and he's out there like that. And that kind of tells me a little bit about the confidence that they have in Kenny Pickett, or was it more so that they just didn't have him ready to go into the game on a short week, Link?
Q, what is this? Kenny Pickett's 14?
Yeah.
14. I've been trying to tell you, there's a reason why a first rounder is limping around out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know exactly what it is, but I've been trying to explain it. You want to give your team the best chance to win when you go out there in the football field. And if you're telling me a guy who's leading the league in interceptions is your best option, then you're really slim pickings.
Right. Exactly.
And that's why Q and Chantel, I expected them to try to open up the running game even more. Take the pressure off your quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you're going to have to hit, even if you're going to hit your head on the wall, just go out there and show that you can do it. You want to give your quarterback a chance because, guys, there were several times where I'm rewinding on my film and my computer. He's looking down at the rush. He's not looking downfield. I'm talking about Geno Smith. That worries me because you can't complete anything downfield if you're looking at the rush.
Exactly. I don't know what the best option is at this stage of the game, right? Aiden O'Connell hasn't been activated yet from onto the 53-man roster. Like the 21-day window is open, but they haven't activated him yet. Seems like he's getting closer and closer to coming back. Would they make a move if O'Connell's an option? I don't know. It doesn't seem like from the very small sample size, a few snaps that Kenny Pickett has taken, that Pete Carroll's too fond of him, right? Yeah. And he's going to continue to go back to Geno. And he said after the game, Geno wanted to finish. He wanted to be out there with his guys. So we gave him that opportunity. At some stage of the game, you have to save the player from themselves because they all want to be out there regardless. And I give Geno a lot of credit for trying to tough it out. But you could just see that he was a wounded duck out there and has a pass rush in Denver that was putting in nasty work, throughout the course of the night. So he could have really put himself in even worse way, and really hurt himself if he can't get out of the way and protect himself. And you could see that he really couldn't protect himself. So they don't have very many options on this team at this stage of the game. I think that sooner rather than later, one of these other two guys, Kenny Pickett or Aiden O'Connell, will probably get in there, and we might see a little something. But I just, I caution everyone to don't get your hopes too high on what you're going to see, because I don't think it's going to be much better, to be honest.
Yeah, AOC would get killed behind this offensive line, guys.
It's true.
Yeah, and there's some people that do want to see AOC around. Well, behind the starting O-line, because, one of their arguments was, and I know Q's laughing because we get, a good friend of the show, James, who tweets at us all the time about this and talking about how AOC never got to play behind that starting O-line. But nonetheless, At this point of the season, when you're sitting 2-7, Geno has struggled throughout the whole entire year. People are talking about that he could arguably be the worst quarterback in the league. I think there's a couple of names in there, but he's definitely at the latter end of it. I would say that for a guy like Geno Smith, I think it's time to sit him. I think it's time to bench him. I think you go and see what Kenny Pickett has. I think you go and see what AOC has. And I think you even try to bring in Cam Miller. I think you just definitely just try to see who can give this team a little bit of a spark, even if it's bad.
Well, because see, the problem with that is, and I don't disagree with you, that it'd be fine if they made that move, but everyone that says Aiden O'Connell hasn't had a real opportunity, well, look, this offensive line is still not the starting offensive line, right? Yeah. You're going to be without JPJ probably at least a couple weeks. So, okay, you throw him back there, and then he doesn't just say he doesn't succeed like people expect him to. Then you're going to hear the same thing. Well, he didn't have the starting offense. Well, Miller was out. Well, JPJ was out. Well, Parham was out. So he was behind this and that. Look, that's what it is in the National Football League. When you get an opportunity to get on the field, you have to make the most of it. And there can't be, well, this wasn't perfect. This wasn't perfect. This wasn't set up right. Like it's how many times has Aiden O'Connell been on the field? How many times has he had a chance to start and something has happened? Either he gets injured, he doesn't play well, he gets sacked a bunch of times. I mean, just they were speeding up his clock during training camp. Right, yeah. They were getting upset because he couldn't get the snap out, so they were speeding up the play clock just to try to get him to go and process a little bit earlier. The reality of it is, and I think it's okay to say it, I don't know why people just don't want to admit it, I don't think the Raiders have a real franchise quarterback on the roster. I mean, it's just that simple. They have guys that are capable of being backups, and then they have Geno Smith, and you call him whatever you want to call him. He's a journeyman, he's a Band-Aid, he's a guy that Pete Carroll thought he could have success with, and he's not. But a real franchise quarterback that's going to lead this team and potentially lead them deep into the playoffs when the team is right, I don't believe is on the roster. And that's okay to say that. It's okay to say that they're not there. They've got to go address it and go find their guy. There's a reason why they were trying to go and bring in Matt Stafford. There's a reason why they were looking at these other quarterbacks. If they believed that their franchise quarterback was already on the roster, they wouldn't have been in a hurry to go do that.
Chantel, you brought up a good point when you talked about quarterback play. Looking at the next two games between the Cowboys and the Browns, right? Let's say we switch up at quarterback. We go out and win. Cowboys defense is pretty bad at times. And they're really, the last game I watched, they were really bad. Yep. Cleveland's got a little bit better defense, but they're still a team that struggles. Yeah. How do we truly evaluate who's ever at the helm with those two games? How can we be sure what we see is actually facts? It's actual facts. Or do we move on and just take a chance? Now, I will say winning a football game, oh, that'd be outstanding. Love that. Be able to hold my chest up high. Yes, we won a game. The Raiders and alumni. Yes, they're happy. We haven't been there yet. So again, we go back to evaluation, and I agree with Q. Raiders don't have their franchise quarterback. Yeah. They don't have their franchise quarterback. They don't have their franchise tackle. They don't even have their franchise corner. They've got their franchise defensive end. You've got your franchise tight end. You got your franchise back. But the Raiders, it's going to be. You have to be patient.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I don't think anyone expected Sam Darnold to have the season that he's having in Seattle, and Seattle be that good and the offense be balling, because Seattle's offense is just rolling right now. But I also think that where Geno was in Seattle, a lot of his flaws were masked in Seattle, whereas in Vegas, like, you're seeing all of his flaws and you're seeing the quarterback that he is. And it's unfortunate because he is what he is at this point in his career. And I think coming in, there was a lot of hope in what Geno could do because of him and Pete Carroll and, just how he did succeed a little bit in Seattle. But when you get to a place like Vegas and there's just so many holes on that O-line, you can't really mask anything, right? He's not getting any protection, which is not his fault. But at the same time, his confidence has really dropped. So it's like, are you going to go with a quarterback that just doesn't have that confidence anymore? And at this point, I don't care. I just want to see something different out there. I don't want to see a game like I saw on Thursday night. That was brutal, especially when everyone's talking about when your team plays on a primetime game and they're saying that it's one of the worst games that they've seen all year. Mm-hmm. That's brutal. That's brutal to hear as a fan. And it's just not fun to see. So I would like to see a change at that position. And, I hope the Raiders go out into the draft and draft a quarterback. I've been saying that for years. And even when they went and they traded for Geno, I thought, Geno could help a young quarterback develop, because he is a decent leader. Mm-hmm. And I thought, go out and get Shedeur Sanders, and they didn't do that. they had an opportunity to do that. They didn't do that. And obviously Shedeur is sitting on the bench and we haven't really seen what he has done, but anything is better than this, guys.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I talked about quite a bit. I thought when they had the opportunity to go and get Jalen Hurts while Derek Carr was still the quarterback, they should have done it. Right. I thought that they should have addressed that when they had multiple first-round picks. They could have got him and let him sit behind Carr when they were ready to move on from Carr. That could have been the easy transition. The problem is the Raiders didn't do that. The Raiders, and it doesn't necessarily have to be Hurts. That was just the guy that I was picking, but they didn't have a succession plan. That's my basic my point, right? And since Carr's been gone, it's been a rotation at that position. And I've never had a problem with them moving on from Carr, but only if you have a plan. Like Lincoln said before, when it comes to replacing coaches, if you're going to replace the coach, who's going to be the next guy? Well, it's the same thing with quarterbacks. If you're going to move on from your quarterback, your franchise quarterback, that's fine. But who's going to take the place, right? They went through Jarrett Stidham. They went through Jimmy Garoppolo. They went through Brian Hoyer. They went through Aiden O'Connell. They've went through Gardner Minshew. They went, I mean, you know what I mean? Like the list goes on and on. They've got Kenny Pickett in the mix. Aiden O'Connell's trying to bring in the mix. I mean, Geno Smith is in the mix. Like all these different quarterbacks, all since you sat Derek Carr down, right? All you needed to do was have a true plan in place of how you were going to replace him once you made that decision. And they didn't do that. And that was one of the biggest fails, I think, that they've made as a franchise. You don't just move on from a guy. It's like getting a job. It's like if I don't like my job, I'm not going to quit until I have another job. Right. I might not like where I'm at right now, but I do like getting a paycheck every couple weeks. Right. As opposed to, well, I don't like this job, so I'm going to bounce and show them, and then I'll worry about getting a job later. No, you have to have the proper succession plan. And the Raiders never did that. That was their number one failure as far as I'm concerned.
You know, last year we saw, a rotation of quarterbacks, Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew, and it looked like everyone struggled. Mm-hmm. And you talked about the offense was in poor shape, couldn't do anything, and try to come back this year and say, okay, we're going to replace, Gardner Minshew with Geno Smith, and Aiden O'Connell's still on the roster. And I looked at this offensive line in the preseason when Q and I were sitting out there at training camp, and I'm like, dude, this isn't going to be good.
Yep.
Aiden can't run, and Geno's a little bit more mobile, but Aiden can't run, and
he's afraid to run.
I know you're right.
He's afraid to run,
and it looks like a statue sitting up there in the pocket, just being picked apart. There were times I saw on Thursday night with Geno Smith, dude, you got to do something. You can't just stand there in the pocket and wait to get tackled. But you're right. To Q's point, never had a plan, and tried to just throw constant Band-Aids over the gaping wound. The same thing they did with the offensive line. But I watched that offensive line, and as poor as they were, I'm like, oh my goodness, if one of these guys go down, Colt Miller's going down, JPJ's going down. Now it's Slim Pickens. It's going to be hard. I don't know how Geno keeps his eyes up looking downfield when he's got 2-3 replacement linemen sitting in front of him.
Yeah, and coming up on the other side, Q and Linc are going to be taking some of your questions and comments. So keep it locked here on the Locked On Network. You're watching or listening to the Raider Squad Show. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game and want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back, Raider Nation. Remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. And we're going to take this final segment, a really quick one, to go to questions and comments in the chat. And I saw a really interesting one, which I looked at it and I was like, I got to ask the guys this. And everyone's been asking, is it AOC time yet? And I believe it was from Tyler McNair. And he said, do you think Gardner Minshew would have been better than Geno Smith at this time?
No. No.
No, who cares?
Absolutely not. No.
Like he was
quick.
terrible. That was a terrible experiment, right? The Gardner Minshew was a terrible experiment.
Very true.
Let's move on.
Yeah, that was quick. All right, Super D, do you think our O-line is small on average and play strength is an issue?
Not small.
I don't feel like they're small in stature. I just don't feel like that they're tough, solid one unit, if that makes sense. I think JPJ is brings the toughness. I think Miller brings the technique. and other guys are just trying to figure things out. Like Glaze is trying to figure it out. Meredith is trying to figure it out. Parham is trying to stay healthy, right? I mean, it just seems like that they're not one band, one sound. Let's put it like that.
I think what you've seen this season is that DJ Glaze has struggled with speed.
Mm-hmm.
He's seen a lot more speed over him. He struggled with speed. That's why I would not have him as an uncovered tackle. There would be a tight end or somebody over to help him. They haven't made adjustments for that. When you go down the line, Meredith has struggled, but I'm trying to give him some slack because this is his first year playing center. And I know how difficult the position is. I'm trying to give him slack. Now, JPJ is a better guard to me than center because he can focus on just moving people's asses. That's why I want him there. He's my mauler. I don't want him to make calls. I want him to get to one point. I saw him in Thursday night's game. I saw him pull beautifully on a power play and just unload on the outside linebacker. That's what I want to see him do. I want to see him do that more often. I want to see him get involved with the running game and have it do. But, the fact is that without that total unit, I'm still evaluating Dylan Parham.
Yeah.
I don't know if Colt Miller ever comes back. Much to the Q's point, getting up there in age, has had some severe injuries. This is going to play on his mind. This offensive line needs revamping, guys.
Yep.
It needs a total makeover.
Yeah. And
it's that simple.
And hopefully they address that in the draft. We'll
Mm-hmm.
see. And later on, obviously this season we'll have a full draft show, guys. And I'll be excited for that. I got a couple of names for that. I've already been scouting. We'll be back. We'll be back on Thursday, 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. Sorry, 7:30 a.m. Pacific time, 10:30 a.m. Eastern time. That would be 4:30 a.m. for us, right? Nah. Q works too much to get up at that time.
Right.
Q knows ball.
But we'll be back on Thursday, and of course, we'll be breaking down the Raiders and Cowboys Monday Night Football. Hopefully the Raiders can have some positives in that game. We'll get that for you on Thursday. Thanks so much for rocking out with us, Raider Nation. And remember, if you like the content, hit that like and subscribe button. We'll see you on Thursday.